In the modern year of 2026, 7-year-old Theo is getting ready to travel back in time with Passporter time machine. With a quick tap on his tablet, the year scrolled back thousands of years until it hit 3000 BCE. With a whoosh of warm air, the walls of his room dissolved into a landscape of golden sand and shimmering blue water. Theo had arrived in ancient Egypt. Stepping out, Theo met a boy named Khensu, who was wearing a simple linen wrap. Khensu wasn't afraid. He thought Theo was a messenger from the gods because of his glowing sneakers. As they walked along the Nile, Khensu showed Theo the 3 distinct worlds of his people. First, they visited the royal district where the pharaoh's family live, wearing fine white linen and golden jewelry. Next, they passed by the free men district, where merchants and scribes lived in mud brick houses and do their business. Then, they stopped by a massive construction site where slaves and laborers worked in the heat, moving heavy stones. Theo realized that in this time, where you were born, decided exactly how your life would be. Then, Khensu showed Theo some of the important tools of 3000 BCE. First, Khensu showed Theo a shadoof, a long wooden pole with a bucket on one end and a heavy rock weight on the other. It was used to lift water from the Nile into irrigation ditches that takes all day and makes his father's back ache. Then, Theo said that in the modern time, people use an electric water pump to get water from the river to their farms. Next, Khensu led Theo to a scribe's hut. The scribe used a pen made from a thin sea rush plant dipped in ink to write on scratchy papyrus scrolls. Scribes were the human experts whose entire job was to keep track of everything for the pharaoh by writing and reading. But the use of rush pen and papyrus was slow, and only a very few people knew how to do it. Theo then pulled out tablet and drew a perfect circle and changed the color from red to neon green instantly. Theo told Khensu that in the modern time, he can write a book and send it to the other side of the world in a second. Next, they saw a stonemason pounding the chisel with a mallet to carve stone blocks for monumental structures. After adjusting his goggles and asking Khensu to wear the other pair, Theo showed him how to engrave the rock with a power drill. Theo let Khensu use the power drill. Khensu happily engraved the rock with the modern tool. Theo continued his journey in ancient Egypt in 3000 BCE. On their way to the Nile, Khensu pointed to a tall obelisk that serves as a shadow clock in their time. Khensu said that when the shadow of the obelisk disappears, they know it is midday. But on cloudy days, they wouldn't know the time of the day. Theo tapped his smartphone. He told Khensu the device is a tiny machine that tells him the exact time, without needing the sun to tell the time. Khensu then led Theo to the docks where men were lashing together bundles of papyrus stalks to create a reed boat. Khensu explained that using their reed boats, they can travel the Nile in weeks. Amazed by the reed boats, Theo told Khensu that boats still exist in his time, but of different material and design. But aside from boats, Theo said that people in his time have created artificial birds called airplanes. Theo showed Khensu a photo of a plane from his phone, saying airplanes carry hundreds of people across oceans in hours. Theo further said that some planes called supersonic jets fly higher than the clouds and move faster than sound. Next, Khensu took Theo to his home, built from mud bricks and flat roofs from woven reed mat and earthen floor. Then, he showed Theo a small clay jar that contained some of his medicines. He said, if he accidentally cut his leg, the priest doctor would put honey mixed with animal fat on his wound. Theo looked at the jar and said that experts in human medicine discovered that some tiny organisms called bacteria cause sickness, and that doctors treat infected people with antibiotic to fight the infection. Inside the mud brick walls of Khensu's home, Khensu lit a small ceramic oil lamp. The lamp gave off a flickering orange glow and a thick trail of smoke. Khensu explained that the oil lamp is how they see at night, but they have to handle it with care or the house may burn. Theo lit up the flashlight from his phone, illuminating the far corner of the room instantly. Theo explained that in the year 2026 CE, they don't use fire inside to see every night. Theo said that with the power of electricity, one tiny bulb in a flashlight or lamp can make a room bright with a click. Theo told Khensu to imagine that everything in the world is made of tiny building blocks called atoms. Atoms are so small, they can't be seen with any tool. But inside these atoms are even smaller things called electrons. Think of electrons like tiny, buzzing bees that love to move around. Electricity happens when a whole bunch of those electrons start flowing in the same direction, like a river. However, electrons need a push to in order to move. A power source like a battery or a power outlet does the job. It pushes electrons out from one side, sends them through a wire to a light bulb, and pulls them back in the other side. As long as the river is flowing in a circle, the light bulb stays on. Next, Khensu showed Theo how to push a heavy, curved stone, called a quern, over a flat rock to grind emmer wheat into flour. It was back-breaking work, and Theo noticed bits of grit and sand getting into the flour. Khensu said every loaf of bread starts with hours of grinding. Theo then told Khensu he wished they could use an electric kitchen device called grinder. Theo said in his time, they have a machine with spinning metal blades that can turn grain into powder in seconds. Theo said that in modern time, cooking is commonly done using electric or gas-powered stoves. Khensu touched the smooth screen of Theo's tablet and exclaimed that Theo's life is very easy. Khensu then wondered if Theo would spend all his time resting since the machines do all the work. Theo paused, thinking that because the machines do the chores, they have to use their time to learn even more complex things so they can build the next machine. Suddenly, Khensu became curious about what Egypt would become in the distant future. Theo then explained that in the modern time, Egypt remains a great nation, still shaped by the Nile, and is still important to the entire world. Despite being mostly desert, Egypt's life continues to gather tightly around the Nile River, just as it had in Khensu's time. He explained that even in modern time, only a small portion of Egypt's land is currently used for farming, forming a narrow green ribbon along the river and a fan-shaped delta where the Nile meets the sea. Yet this small area supported millions of people, proving how powerful and life-giving the Nile River remains to this day. Theo said that modern Egyptians still depends on the Nile to grow crops. Irrigation systems spread the Nile's water across fields, allowing farming to continue even though rainfall is rare. Modern Egyptians also raise animals such as cattle, sheep, goats, and poultry. Then, Theo told Khensu about the Aswan High Dam, one of the symbols of modern Egypt. Built in 1970 CE, the Aswan High Dam is a giant wall that shows how smart Egyptian builders are. It is so long that it stretches for more than 2 miles across the Nile River. By holding back the water, it created Lake Nasser, a massive man-made lake in modern Egypt. He explained that this enormous dam was built across the Nile to control flooding and store water for dry times. The lake also helps farmers receive water year-round, instead of only during flooding seasons. The dam produces hydroelectric power, turning moving water into electricity and support modern life. Theo also explained that the Nile supplies drinking water, supports fishing, and connects cities and villages, particularly between northern and southern Egypt. Today, the river remains Egypt's main lifeline, while most of the surrounding desert stays largely uninhabited. Theo then showed Khensu how modern Egypt is home to Cairo, one of the largest cities in the world. These cities are home to schools, hospitals, universities, factories, and markets. Ancient pyramids and temples are carefully protected, allowing all people to learn from Egypt's past. Theo also explained that modern Egypt has invested in renewable energy, using its natural environment in new ways. In the deserts, Egypt built vast solar power plants that capture sunlight and turns it into electricity. Along windy regions, near the Red Sea, tall wind turbines spin like giant pinwheels, creating clean energy. These technologies help power cities while protecting the environment. Then Theo explained another of Egypt's most important modern achievements, the Suez Canal. He described it as a long, man-made river carefully dug through miles of dry desert land. The Suez Canal carried saltwater ships, turning the desert into a watery highway. Theo explained that with the Suez Canal, ships do not need stairs, lifts, or locks to move up or down. Ships simply floats forward, pushed by their engines, just like toys drifting across a calm pond. The canal is wide and deep, yet narrow enough for some of the largest ships to steer carefully. Theo described how ships travels through the canal in an organized line. Suez Canal pilots help lead ship captains ensure their ships do not become stuck in the soft sand below. At certain wide sections, ships pass one another safely before continuing their journey. Theo explained that before the canal existed, ships had to sail all the way around the bottom of Africa, a journey that took weeks or even months, exposing sailors to storms, dangerous waters, and great expense. The Suez Canal, therefore, acts like a shortcut through the middle of the world, saving time, fuel, and effort. Every day, ships carrying various goods pass through the canal, traveling between Asia, Europe, and Africa. Because of the Suez Canal, Egypt has become one of the most important connectors on Earth. The Suez Canal allows Egypt to help move the world's goods, just as the Nile did in Khensu's time. Theo explained that while the desert covers most of Egypt, the Nile River, the Aswan High Dam, the Suez Canal, and renewable energy systems together allow Egypt to feed its people, power its cities, and connect the world. Ancient natural gifts and modern human creativity worked side by side. Khensu then came to understand that Egypt's future was not a forgotten one. As the blue light of the passporter began to swirl around Theo's sneakers, he handed Khensu a stainless steel spoon, a tool that would not break or rust like Khensu's clay dishes. Theo said the spoon is something to remember by that the future is built on what ancient people did in their time. And then they hugged each other and bid each other goodbye. When Theo tumbled back onto his room in 2026, the room felt different. He looked at his desk lamp, no oil or fire needed. He looked at his bookshelves, knowledge available to everyone, not just to the scribes. Theo realized that he is lucky to live in an age of freedom and where everyday tools make life easier for everyone. He climbed into bed, grateful for the soft sheets and the bright future waiting for him in the morning.